happening right now. Premier Doug Ford is about to make an announcement in Pickering. We'll take you there live and listen in.
Ontario.
Sorry.
Yesterday, we launched the new Protect Ontario financing program with up to $1 billion in funding available to support Ontario businesses impacted by the U.S. tariffs. This funding will help avoid business closures, protect workers from layoffs, and safeguard critical supply chains in the face of U.S. tariffs and economic uncertainty. And under the leadership of Premier Ford, our government is leaving no stone unturned in our efforts to protect workers and businesses from the economic challenges facing Ontario. So it's with that, as part of the great team that we have under Premier Ford, to introduce a good friend and colleague, someone who works 24/7 on behalf of the workers across Ontario and the skilled trades, a friend of mine, the Minister of Labour, Immigration Training and Skills Trade Development. I'm glad it's on the screen because I'd never remember all that. The Honourable David Piccini. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, everyone. Thank you to my colleague, Peter Bethlen-Falvey, for that introduction, for the incredible work he's doing to support and finance these programs that support workers, our next generation. He's right. Today is about them. And today is about the tens of thousands of them who are in the pipeline, who want to be a part of building a stronger Ontario. And it's an honor to be here today with Premier Ford in Pickering, home to some of the hardest working people in our great province, and a symbol of Ontario's strength. Thank you to ResCon, Andrew, and Tribute Community, Steve and Al, a titan in the industry, for welcoming us all here at this site today. Over 1,600 units coming online, and a special
Okay, we've been listening briefly to the Ministry of Labour, Immigration and Trading, David Piccini. Earlier, Peter Bethlen-Falvey, Finance Minister, spoke about Ontario's plan, $1 billion investment to help support Ontario businesses in the support of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs, and how it's going to help these businesses stay afloat in these uncertain times. Okay, let's take you live back to Pickering, where Premier Doug Ford is making an announcement in supporting Ontario businesses. We'll listen in live.
The training and upskilling that job seekers need to find good paying work. In the face of President Trump's tariffs, that support for workers is more important than ever before. That's why we expanded the fund to a total of $2.5 billion in this year's provincial budget. This expanded fund will help train even more workers and help Ontario stand up to tariffs and economic uncertainty. Today, I'm very excited to announce that over $2.8 million from the fund will go to 5 training projects across Durham region. These investments will help boost the local economy and keep workers on the jobs. They include support to train workers in the home building construction, carpentry, and manufacturing sectors, as well as support to help tradespeople get the training they need to start and run their own businesses. I want to acknowledge and thank all our partners. I know you've mentioned everyone, but let's go through it again, including Drew Construction, DNR Custom Steel, First Robotics Canada, and Peterborough and Kawartha's Innovation Centre Cluster. I also want to acknowledge the great work being done by Substance Cares, who will be using their funding to help people with autism access training in construction and carpentry and support them in finding work. And I'm thrilled to be here in Durham as we continue to work to protect the people of Ontario, the workers, the communities, and their families. And to all the workers here today, I promise you, our government will always have your backs. Thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
We will now take questions from the media. Media present can line up behind me and ask their questions through the microphone. As a friendly reminder, the format is 1 question and 1 follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question. First question.
Morning, Lane Harrison, CBC News. I'm curious, Premier, when it comes to the public servants going back to work, there's been a lot of debate in society about this topic. Where do you stand? Do you think that people are going to be more productive if they're back to work, or do you think that some people, it's true that they're more productive at home?
Well, I believe everyone's more productive when they're at work. And how do you mentor someone over a phone? You can't. You got to look at them eye to eye, over the water cooler, wherever, train them, camaraderie. Plus the economy too. I'll just use downtown Toronto, for example. The path. There's hard-working entrepreneurs that their businesses basically just died when they weren't seeing the flow of traffic. But I understand all the companies I've talked to, from the banks to the insurance companies to everyone else, everyone needs to go back to work. Half the public service is already at work 5 days a week, and I want to thank them. And I just look forward to having everyone back to work.
And just on the topic of why now, is the big bank sending people back to work and Rogers sending people back to work, did that factor into your government's decision on why to do this now?
No, I think it's just time. Everyone's kind of saying it's time to get back to work. It's simple as that. So we look forward to having everyone back. I'm very grateful for the work they do. We have best public service in Canada, and I appreciate the work they do every day.
Hi, Premiers. John Woodward from CTV News.
Yes.
You're aware, no doubt, by now that the driver who's accused of dangerous driving in the death of Andrew Castillo, that father of three, is the same one that hit you back in January. Yeah. I wondered what went through your head when you realized that connection and whether you think that guy should have been driving.
Number one, as far as I'm concerned, he shouldn't have been driving. He hit us over 200 kilometers an hour. It's heart-wrenching when you talk to the family. The father that got killed, I talked to his father, and it's just heart-wrenching. You think of 3 young girls, his wife that has cancer. Everyone has to pitch in and help this family. It's terrible. And this person being able to get out there and drive, it's in front of the courts. I wish I could say what's on my mind right now, but I think people know how I feel and everyone else in Ontario feels about this person. Just reckless, careless. I better stop because I don't want any problems when he goes to court. So just frustrating, it's heart aching, and our condolences and our prayers go out to the family. And I know people of Ontario will support him any way we can.
In my conversations with the family members there, they've been pushing for systemic change. One of the options might be to provincially, in the provincial licensing system, provide some restrictions for drivers after they have been charged criminally with things like dangerous driving.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd support?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's long overdue. So we'll look at it. But these people, there isn't a person out there that drives on the highway. You don't see these sporty little cars whipping in and out all over the place. They're racing from point A to point B. It's just terrible. They need to have their license taken away. Cars impounded, because you're taking a life, a father's life, a brother's life. It's just very sad.
Just one more. I mean, do you worry that could have been you?
Well, it could have, like 3-4 inches more. He hit me right on my door, going over 200 kilometers an hour. We didn't even know it hit us. We were just driving straight. And he swooped across 3 lanes from an on-ramp. Just reckless, careless, stunt driving, and we were lucky literally by inches. And he gets back in the car and acts like an idiot, driving recklessly. Just again, I'll stop.
Hi, Premier. Jessica from the Trillium here. I'm hoping to follow up on yesterday's announcement concerning the Protecting Ontario account. What do you see as how to spend the remaining $4 billion in that account? Is this something you could use to support specific important projects or companies, or establishing more funds? What do you think it should be spent on?
Yeah, I'll say a few comments, and I'm going to pass it over to my Minister of Finance. I get messages every single day. I go out there. Companies are hurting, especially the ones that rely on our trade deal going back and forth across the border. Those who aren't covered in the CUSMA or USMCA deal, they're getting hit, especially the auto sector, the steel sector, they're getting hit, but we're going to be there to support them. Our goal is to onshore every possible product we can until they don't have to face the tariffs, and it will create more jobs. So that's what we're working on with the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, and every single person's job, as far as I'm concerned, is to find products and onshore them. What really bothers me lately, and I got to have a chat with all the retailers, the big 5. I've heard many stories that you're outsourcing out of our country when there's great manufacturers here. I heard a story yesterday that you're going to Thailand, you're going to China, pulling business away from Ontario workers. If I have to put a Canadian flag and every other flag on every single product and legislate it until the consumer can see that you aren't pulling the wool over their eyes, because that's what they're doing, and I still have to get a can of Campbell soup that's putting that Canadian flag on, that's not being manufactured here, misleading the people, and getting it, getting it produced in Camden, New Jersey, the can, the label, the stuff inside. And do you know what they put? Recipe of Canada. Do you think the people of Ontario are that dumb? Like, I'm gonna call you out. I'm getting one of those cans. I'm gonna rip that label off and encourage people to buy made in Ontario, made in Canada soup. And maybe what you should do is bring back your manufacturing facility that you closed down in Etobicoke and got rid of hundreds of people. But I just can't stand sneaky companies that do stuff like that. So, I'm sorry. Over to you, Peter. You got on a rant there.
You're on a roll, Premier. No, thank you for the question. Look, Premier, you and I and a few others were at the Oshawa plant a few months ago. There's a lot of anxiety and uncertainty at the auto sector, in the auto sector, the steel sector. The message is we've got your back, whether it's skills development, whether it's the liquidity facility that we announced yesterday, whether it's the next $4 billion, whether it's putting out tax deferrals, some $11 billion that we announced 4 or 5 months ago. We're going to be there. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of uncertainty, but I'll put up our Ontario workers, our education system, our skilled workers, and our innovative riskers of capital against any economy in the world. And make no mistake that this government will have your back. We're going to work with you, and we'll do more as we can negotiate with the U.S. Clearly, the trading relationship with the U.S., as the Premier just said, is going to change forever. It's not the same. Now, by force of geography and culture and language, we're going to continue to have a great relationship with the U.S. But now tariffs don't help anybody. They don't help the U.S. They don't help Canadians. It's a tax on U.S. consumers. And while we go through this period of uncertainty, make sure that Ontario and this government will work night and day to make sure that we can transition to a more productive time and rise up again with our economy.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
He does a great job, by the way, watching every single penny.
Sorry, Premier, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, sorry.
For my follow-up, I was wondering if you could elaborate on the comments you made earlier about calls Minister Bethlenfalvy is getting about highway congestion now that there are no tolls on the formerly tolled highway.
I was getting the calls, but I always tell him the calls because he's from. So people are coming home from the cottage. It's getting pretty jammed up on there. But if it's jammed up there, I always say it must be taking congestion off another part, I guess the 401. So I think in the long term, we might have to look at, we'll work with the Minister of Transportation and obviously the person that controls the money, Minister Bethlenfalvy, to see if we can maybe add lanes on either side. I know through his great leadership and the rest of the Durham team, they're widening Highway 7, and the mayor is as happy as punch about, adding those extra lanes along Highway 7 because they're growing so quickly, and adding companies up here because the mayor has created the environment and conditions for companies to come here and invest in their innovation park, and they're just, he's a great mayor. He's doing an incredible job. So we're looking at a plan to lighten up the traffic.
Hey, Premier, Barbara with QP Briefing.
Hi.
My question is about a case that took place in March this year. A judge appointed by your government refused to give a 5-time impaired driver the mandatory sentence of 4 months in jail that is required by law. This judge, Justice Kathira Jalali, gave respondent Joseph Leclerc 4 months of house arrest instead of the mandatory 4 months in jail. And as I said, the respondent was a 5-time impaired driver, and he was high on fentanyl and driving the wrong way down a Mississauga street while on a 2-year driving ban. This judge was appointed by your government. So you have said in the past, just like seeing her actions now and considering, everything you have said about bleeding heart judges, do you think you made a mistake in this appointment, and do you believe she should be reprehended for refusing to follow the law?
That's the best question you've ever asked me.
Wow.
That's a very good question. I'm going to look into this, Judge. I don't even know. I don't sit there and handpick judges. That goes through a whole process, Attorney General and everything. But you're right. We do have weak-kneed judges. Not all, because we have great judges. Let me qualify that. Great judges, but we have some weak-kneed ones that make big-time mistakes. And so I'll look into this. But I'm glad you're holding them accountable. That's good. The media has a role to play. You got to call them out. You got to call them out by name, too, because who are they accountable to? Judge gets a job. He has a job for life. It's like that judge that made a big mistake on the bike lanes. But, anyways, we'll look into that. But thank you for that, and keep calling these ridiculous non-sentences out if you could, because who does that, right? Guy's been impaired 5 times and let him out? You got to be kidding me. And by the way, we're building quite a few more jails to keep all these bad guys in jail.
Thank you, Premier. I'm not sure if you're going to like the second question
That's
as
all right.
much as about
I get the
housing.
good and the bad, but go ahead.
So the CMHC projection showed annual housing starts dropping into the low 60,000 range from 2025 onward, which is far below the 150,000 to 175,000 annual target that you set out. So pretty much what this means is that from 2026 onwards, Ontario will need to build nearly 3 times its forecast pace to hit the annual 170,000 yearly target. And this is despite considering long-term care beds, retirement homes, and student dormitories as well in the housing statistics. So you said that you're going to meet with the PM this Monday for a heart-to-heart. I'm just wondering if you're going to make the case for him about removing the HST entirely federally and provincially, and not only for first-time home buyers, especially considering these last numbers.
That wasn't a bad one. That's an accurate statement. That was very good, actually. You go peaks and valleys. I'll tell you what's causing this problem. Number one is the uncertainty. People are nervous as anything out there if they're going to have a job or not. That's probably one of the number one reasons. Number two, the Governor of Bank of Canada has to lower those interest rates. He mentioned that below 2%, he'll lower them. Didn't lower them. Got 2.75%. Knock them down 0.5% or even a full percentage. You'll see the market take off like greased lightning there. And as for the HST, I got my knuckles wrapped a little bit from the finance minister because he's doing his job. That's a lot of money, but that's something we'll sit down with the finance minister and the prime minister and see how we can look at the HST for certain sectors. And the other thing is a big one. I know the mayor may not like this, but the DCs. You got to knock down some of the DCs. So if everyone pitches in, the province, the cities, and the feds, it's never just one level of government. We need everyone pitching in. And then the stress tests. Folks, I'm going to simplify this. People don't understand the stress tests. Let's just say your interest rate, I'm just throwing out wild numbers, 3%. You go to the bank, they put 2% on top of that. You have to make sure that you can handle a 2% interest hike. Let's knock it down by 1% at least. And I get it. You don't want to be in the 2008 scenario that you owe more than what the house is worth. But you got to get more people approved to buy homes. And how you're able to buy a home is get a good paying job. And so we're trying to create that environment and conditions. But I can promise you one thing. We're going to get out of this little rut. You ask the construction professionals who've been in the game longer than I have. It's up and down, and this time it's down, but it's up to us to create the environment and conditions to give people confidence.
Can I sorry, Premier, very quickly, can I get a yes or no on whether you're going to bring up the HST cut to the
I'll mention it to them, but we have to be prudent fiscal managers too, and that's something that I appreciate the finance minister. I'm out there saying, yeah, let's get it done. He's saying, hey, we got to watch the dollars and cents. And that's why I love him. I always tell him he's the best finance minister ever. So it's a happy balance. But we'll run through it, and we'll do everything we can. We'll do everything possibly we can to make that happen. Here he comes, the money man himself.
We are attached at the hip. I just want to point out on tax cuts and reducing taxes, there's no government, there's no premier across Canada that's done more work together cutting taxes and fees. We're a government that puts more money back into people's pockets, back into business pockets so that they can invest. They're the risk takers. They're the spenders. Just in the last budget, I highlighted that we had $13 billion of tax cuts, fee relief for businesses, and $12 billion. $13 billion for businesses, $12 billion for individuals. So we're always looking at ways that we can put more money back into people's pockets and businesses, and we do it very fiscally responsible. We have some of the best debt metrics in over a decade, interest metrics over the last decade. And don't listen to me, listen to the two credit rating agencies that upgraded our credit rating. And by the way, our tariff budget that we put together in May after getting reelected, other provinces had their budgets and credit ratings downgraded. We didn't. So we're fiscally responsible with our money so that we can put money back into people's pockets and back into businesses' pockets, and that's why I think we do so well together, Premier.
Absolutely.
This will be the last reporter.
I'm melting here. Literally. There's a lot to melt, I'll tell you.
I'll try and make it quick. Hi, Premier Alison Jones with the Canadian Press.
Hi, Alison.
I wanted to ask about the wildfire situation. There's a lot of fires across Ontario right now, even in Kawartha
Everywhere.
Lakes. And I think just about every province in the country right now is experiencing wildfires. So resource sharing between provinces must be kind of difficult at the moment. Given all that, is it time to look at putting more resources into wildfire fighting?
Yeah, we are actually. We're buying new water bombers. The problem with the water bombers, they're taking 3 to 4 years because everyone needs them. We're also looking at the large helicopters that you've seen on television scoop up water. We put resources in Newfoundland. We have some water bombers there. I had a call from Premier Holt from New Brunswick. They're facing problems. It's a conversation that we had with the Prime Minister that we need resources, national resources across the country because it happens frequently. We send firefighters in, we send equipment in and help each other. But right now, like everywhere seems to have issues, every single province. So we're putting more money in to answer your question. But we need to do it quicker. We got to get the company that makes the water bombers to make them a lot faster, quicker.
On the federal angle, is that something you'll be bringing up with the Prime Minister on Monday?
Yeah.
And can you sort of tell me specifically what you're looking for? And just on the New Brunswick request, did they request resources from Ontario, but we're not able to spare any?
Yeah, we can't right now. We gave resources to Newfoundland. And we brought this up to the Prime Minister over at the Council of Federation meeting. And we're going to follow up on a conversation. I'm sure he understands the situation that we're facing across the country, but it happens every year. So we need to ramp up everything possible. I had a meeting with David Piccini, and that actually came up today with our friends from the Firefighters Association. So we're building a good, strong strategy.
That concludes our press conference. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, we've just been listening into Premier Doug Ford making a investment announcement in the Durham region for businesses in the areas of construction, carpentry, and manufacturing in the face of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. He also praised reporters and his own team, covered everything from dangerous drivers to housing and taxes, as well as the support for firefighters.